Good morning students. Today in this video we will start new chapter number 5, sentences, simple, compound and complex. So without any delay, let's get started. Student, in the first chapter we had discussed about the sentence, the definition of the sentence, that the group of words that makes complete sense, it is called sentence. And there are four kinds of sentence: adjective, imperative, exclamatory, interrogative. Four kinds of sentence we had discussed in the first chapter. But in this chapter we will discuss types of the sentence. Types of the sentence, here we can see simple, compound and complex sentence. So first of all we will discuss simple sentence. As you can see, simple sentence, you can see the example: Mohit sat in the park. Mohit sat in the park. So in this sentence it has subject as well as verb. So if there is only one finite verb in each sentence, this sentence is called simple sentence. As you can see the definition: a sentence which has only one finite verb is called a simple sentence. Second example, you can see Mohit sat in the park on the wooden bench near the river, not noticing the frog near his feet. This sentence had only one finite verb, sat. The word noticing, it is a non-finite verb. That's why. So it is not. It is not. It is, as usually people think that if the sentence is long, that it is not simple sentence, but it is not necessary that a simple sentence is always small. So always remember how to identify whether the sentence is simple. Simply we just have to keep in our mind one thing, that simple sentence each had only one finite verb. So second example, you can see Tom and Dick sat in the classroom. Tom and Dick both are the subject, both are two different subject, one finite verb, so this sentence is simple sentence. A simple sentence may also have two objects, a cat and rat. There are two objects in this sentence, but it had also one finite verb, so these sentences are simple sentence. Now let's move to the page number 2024. Now here another sentence, that is compound sentence and coordinate clause. First of all we will come to know about the compound sentence. As you can see the example, Kavita sat in the park and the children played on the swing. So there are, in this sentence there are two finite verbs. The first is sat, second is played, and each finite verb it had subject. Each finite verb has subject, and that makes two clauses. Kavita sat in the park. This is the first clause, and second, after adding conjunction, the children played on the swing. This is the second clause. So, we had discussed in the clause chapter that each clause had a finite verb, and the two clauses are joined by the conjunction, and conjunction we will discuss in next class. So each clause is of equal importance and make complete sense. Okay. So clause always makes complete sense. Okay. So where it is also called principal clause or main clause. So neither of these clauses that given in the example depend on the other clause. Such clauses are called main clause or principal clause. A sentence which has two or more main clauses is called a compound sentence. Always remember, this is a definition of compound sentence, that a sentence which has two or more main clause is called a compound sentence. That you can see the example, Kavita sat in the park, the children played on the swing. So there are two different example sentence given in the chapter, but uh, these are the also clause, because principal clause, because each sentence makes complete sense. A sentence which is made of two or more principal main clause is called compound sentence. Two When there is two or more principal clause in each sentence, it is called compound sentence. And also the clause of the compound sentence are called coordinate clauses. Okay, coordinate clauses. Now, the coordinate clauses of a compound sentence are joined by coordinating conjunction. The coordinate clauses it can be joined by coordinating conjunction like as well as, no less than, but still, yet, or only for, so, therefore, and so on. See the last example. Kavita sat in the park and she read a book. While writing a sentence, if there are two clauses in the sentence and the subject of the both clauses are same, so we do not need to mention the second subject. See the first example. Kavita sat in the park and she read a book. So Kavita is a subject, but after and we use the subject, but there are two clauses, we do not need to use mention subject. So second, you can see Kavita sat in the park and read a book. So see, it is missing because both are the similar subject, both are the clause, and we do not, and if the subject are same, then we do not need to mention subject again. Now last, that is complex sentence and subordinate clause. So first of all, see the example. Kavita sat in the park because it was pleasant. So sat is, we know sat is finite verb and was is also finite verb. So two clauses, because both sentence, both verb, it has its own subject. And sat, Kavita sat in the park, and because it was pleasant. So it is subject, was is in finite verb, and pleasant is object. So see the second line. Clause A make complete sense as it can independently on its own. This clause is called the principal or main clause. As you can see, clause A. Okay, this clause it makes complete sense and it stands independently. But in case of option B, this is also a clause, but it will not make complete sense, and until and unless when we if when we join this clause to the second clause to the first clause, then it will make complete sense, and then the clause that does not make complete sense, this clause we can say subordinate clause. Subordinate clause means come under the main clause. Okay, under the main clause, किसी चीज के अधीन रहना. Subordinate, the meaning means subordinate means something under control. So subordinate clause is joined to the main clause by subordinating conjunction. That time we had discussed coordinating conjunction. In this topic, complex sentence, subordinate clause, we use subordinating conjunction like that, when, after, whenever, while, till, since, where, as, so that, if, unless, though, although, and so on. These are the subordinating conjunction. So definition of complex sentence is a sentence which is made up of a principal clause or main clause and one or more subordinate clause. It called a complex sentence. So compound sentence, if there are two or more main clause in the sentence, it is called compound sentence. And if and also when there are two or more principal clause, it is called compound sentence, and clause of a compound sentence are called coordinate clause. But in case of complex sentence, if there is one principal clause or one or more subordinate clause, it is called complex sentence. Kavita sat in the park and the children played on the swing. So it is compound sentence because these both sentences, different sentences, make sense. But in case of Kavita sat in the park because it was pleasant, we can see the first sentence makes sense, but another sentence it doesn't make sense until and unless if we join second clause to the first clause, then it will make sense. So second clause it is subordinate clause, and it always come under control by the first clause. So this is called complex sentence and subordinate clause. So we had discussed today sentence, types of sentence, simple, compound and complex, and also coordinate clause and subordinate clause. So always remember a verb had a subject and a clause had a subject and finite verb of its own. It is called simple sentence. And when compound sentence, when two or more principal clause in the sentence, it is called compound sentence. And the clauses of compound sentence are called coordinate clauses. Complex sentence, when there is one principal clause, the sentence that is made of one principal clause or one or more subordinate clause, it is called complex sentence. So I hope you have understood the chapter, that is simple, compound and complex sentence. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.